Somebody made the remark not long ago. Somebody said, "Well, Jerry, why are you still doing this? You know, you've been here 40-something years, and don't you want to retire and enjoy life?" And said, "Yeah, someday." And they said, somebody made the remark, joking, said, "Well, the only reason Jerry's still here is because he wants to beat Steve Johnson's record of being the longest-running employee at Channel 19, and because Steve's been there a year and a half longer than me." And I just kind of laughed, and I said, "No, you know what? Last time I checked, being the longest-running employee at Channel 19 does not come with a gold watch. And if I want a gold watch, I'll just go buy one, you know." And I said, but no, I said, I hope people realize the reason I'm still there doing it is because I love telling stories.
Hello, Huntsville. Hello, 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 Huntsville.
Hello, Huntsville. I'm Cynthia Joyner. Welcome to another edition of this podcast about all things Huntsville. Today, Jerry Hayes, news anchor for WHNT TV News 19.
How are you?
I'm doing great, Jerry.
Good.
Thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here. Took a little time for me to get here, but with scheduling and everything, but I'm excited about being able to come here and talk to you.
So I understand that you're not a true Huntsvillian, but you're actually from Nashville. I would like to know, how'd you end up in the Rocket City?
Well, it's kind of a long story. I'm not a true Huntsvillian, but I do have roots here. But I grew up born and raised in Nashville. Went to college at Middle Tennessee State University and started working for a TV station during my senior year there in Nashville. Then in the fall of 1978, moved to Huntsville, start working, and actually worked for one of the other television stations for about 5 months. And I'll tell the whole story when I write my book. But I was let go after about 5 months and drew unemployment for 12 days and went to work at Channel 19, and I've been there 44 and a half years now. So I told somebody it was the best career move ever happened to me.
Wow.
So that's how I wound up in Huntsville, and of course I've had a couple of opportunities over the years to leave and go to other markets and move on up to larger cities and stuff, but there was just something that always felt right about Huntsville. I remember when I was anchoring weekends, my mom called me, it was on a Labor Day weekend. She said, "Hey, did you go over to the family reunion?" I said, "Family reunion?" She said, "Yeah, the little family's having the family reunion over at Montesano State Park." I said, "I had no idea." And so we were probably a mile and a half, because we were still on the Montesano at the time, and probably a mile and a half from the reunion. But long story short, started doing a little family research, and I believe it was my great-great-great-grandmother moved to Huntsville from Mississippi with 2 of her kids, and I found her after the Civil War, and I found her in the 1900 census. So my roots to Huntsville, even though I've only been here 45 years, my roots go back 125 years at least, maybe more.
Oh, what about that? That's interesting. So when you're traveling back to Nashville, what are you telling the folks there about Huntsville?
Well, I mean, they know how much I love it here. And, you know, it was tough to leave Nashville, a place where you grew up, but I'm going to tell you, when I look at where Huntsville is now and where Nashville is right now, I'm in the better place. You know, we don't have the traffic that Nashville has, and certainly some of the big city problems that they have. So, you know, they know what a great city it is, because I've chosen to make it my home all these years and raise my daughters, and you know, so this is home. Huntsville's home. I was driving home last night and just through downtown, and I thought to myself, golly, you know, when I retire at some point, am I going to stay in Huntsville? Because I've still got family in Nashville. Closest daughter is in Birmingham. Other daughter is down in Florida. And I'm thinking, I just don't know that I can leave Huntsville. It's so exciting to be here right now, and there's so many things going on that it's like, I'll probably just wind up staying here for a while.
Well, tell us some of the things that make Huntsville so special to you, why you would want to stay here and retire.
Well, I mean, I think it has a lot to do with the growth of the city. There are certainly some things going on now that we didn't have 40 years ago when I moved here, even 20 years ago. But I've certainly seen a lot of growth as the city expands. I mean, we're even over in Limestone County now. The industries that we have attracted, the young people that are coming to this market to work, a whole lot more for people to do nowadays than there was 40 years ago, you know. So it's exciting to see downtown come back to life and redevelop, and to see so many changes where, you know, there are so many places going up now where you can live and you can work close by, and you can play and you can eat and shop. You know, it's kind of an urban feel to it that I'm really enjoying now. I wish we had that 20 years ago, you know, when I was a little bit younger, but it's nice to see that, and it's just exciting.
Yeah, I think I think like that as well, because I was talking to my husband about it. I was like, we've got Mid-City, we got the camp, we have an entertainment district. Yeah. There's just so many things to do now that we didn't have years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm really, you know, starting to really appreciate what we're doing in Huntsville.
Yeah. You know, if you look at the music scene and how it's changed, you know, the mayor in his State of the City address talking about drawing a major festival here like Bonnaroo, Lollapalooza. So, you know, years ago we had Big Spring Jam, and I hated to see it go, but that was fun back in the days. But it's exciting to know that you know the city's working on maybe trying to get something else here soon.
I think the people of Huntsville definitely deserve that and more.
Yeah, yeah.
About your, you know, how did you grow up? What was it like being Jerry Hayes when you were maybe 12 years old?
No different than it is now. I mean, you know, I just I didn't back then when I was probably getting ready to go into middle school. I didn't have any dreams of being a television news person. As a matter of fact, when I was an art major in high school and went to a year of commercial art school and was going to be an artist. And after about a year of that, because back in those days we didn't have graphics like we have now. You know, everything, product illustration was black and white, what they call gouache. And, you know, artists would draw those and they'd go into the advertisements for the newspapers, magazines and such, and even on television. And I just didn't see myself doing that 40 hours a week. And so I took a little break and worked construction for a year, which was back-breaking, but I tell you what, I loved it. And so glad I did it, because my grandfather was involved in road construction. And so I was glad that I learned a lot of life skills in that, and how to work with people, and even some handyman skills that I still use to this day. But something clicked one night. I was watching the news at home, and I thought, man, that's the kind of job I want. You know, I don't want to be somebody that sits at a desk 40 hours a week or sitting at a drawing table or whatever. So I thought, I got to be inside and outside. And I saw that opportunity, so I called a TV station that I was watching, and I said, hey, what do you need to do to get in television news? And there was a guy by the name of Tom Smith that happened to answer the phone, and ironically, he told me, he said, well, go to college, get your degree, then go to work for a small market television station like, say, in Huntsville, Alabama. And I thought, okay, and then you're on your way. Little did I realize at the time that Tom had actually been a reporter at Channel 19 in Huntsville before he went to Nashville. So, you know, I took his advice and immediately started to college that summer, and went straight through and finished in 3.5 years. And the last 6 months of my senior year, I actually interned at Channel 5 in Nashville, where Tom worked. So that was kind of kind of neat, and then was hired on full time for them as a videotape editor, working behind the scenes.
So would you say Tom kind of inspired you?
I think he gave me some great advice. I don't know what it was that clicked that night with me watching the news, but I guess I saw it as an exciting journey or an opportunity that might be fun to look at as far as a career choice. And when I started out, I really didn't have any desire to be in front of the camera. I was going to get on the production end and be a camera guy or, a photographer or something like that, kind of be behind the scenes. But it just, as it worked out, I got an opportunity to do a little reporting while I was there in Nashville, and something just clicked, and I thought, this is kind of cool. This is fun. So I, just kind of went down that road, and it's been a great journey.
So you're enjoying working on the set in Huntsville.
Yeah.
Everything's great. Well, over the years, how would you say that the TV market has changed here since you started?
Well, when I started here in 78, we were still shooting 16 millimeter film. That had to be processed before it ever went on the air, put on a film loop. We had to physically edit, put all of our sound together, and then we went to ENG, which is electronic news gathering. And I think what helped get my foot in the door at Channel 19 was the fact that I had that ENG video experience. And they were getting ready to go to that year when I was hired. So I was lucky enough to be the first reporter to be able to use that equipment at Channel 19. And so then, of course, now, we had a satellite truck, live trucks where we'd go live. Equipment was bulky. Now, you got a reporter that we call a multimedia journalist, MMJ. They shoot their own stuff. They edit on a laptop. Then they anchor their story live somewhere out in the field by using a live unit that's no bigger than a backpack now. So, a lot of admiration for those MMJs out there who are doing it all. And I don't think a lot of people realize how hard they're working when they're out by themselves doing a story. So it's just the equipment has gotten smaller, the technology has gotten better, that we no longer need those huge satellite trucks to go live somewhere. We got a backpack that we just plug into, and we can be live from anywhere in the world.
I heard you mention, was it ING?
I'm sorry,
what was that? You mentioned ING?
ENG.
ENG. So
electronic news gathering.
Okay, for those who don't know about that, can you explain that exactly what it is?
Yeah, it was just it was a transition. Technology was changing, and where we had been doing the news and everything was shot on film, that once again had to be developed before it ever went on the air. And if you had a late-breaking story, sometimes that film just came straight out of the processor and wasn't even dry, but it got on the air to go on the loop. It was still running on the air wet, simply because the 6 o'clock hour had rolled around. It was time to be on the air. And I think so then when ENG came along, it gave us, we didn't have to worry about processing. Everything was shot on video. And back then it was 3/4-inch video. Then some stations went to what they call a 1/2 inch. Then we got to almost like a cassette tape. And now everything's on a computer card, that'll fit right in your hand. And they just put it in their laptop. So it's gotten a lot more portable and easier to cover things than it was years ago. Not as labor intensive to get the news on the air.
Wow, interesting. So tell us, what is for Jerry Hayes, what is a typical day like for you?
There is no typical day. Every day is something different. I know when I get up in the morning, first thing I do is grab a cup of coffee and check email, because I want to get a sense of what's going on, what's happened overnight. I don't immediately jump up and turn on the TV because if I check our email at work, I say, okay, well, this is kind of an idea of what's happening, and I see what the morning news crew did. So, I go in and sit down, continue going through email, and trying to get up to date on what stories we're covering. Sometimes we'll offer advice on, well, what if we do this story, or we do it this way, or maybe we send this crew over here instead of this story. Kind of help, give a little direction, a little advice. And I think a lot of that comes just from experience on what you want to do, stories that impacts the viewer. I've seen stories before and say, guys, that is a small portion of our audience. Whereas you're talking about a sales tax increase or food tax coming off at the grocery store, that affects everybody that watches us. So to me, that's the more important story, and that's the bigger story than something, say, you got road improvements on one street or the water's going to be shut off. So to me, because you only have so much time in that 30 minutes, that's actual news. So just kind of giving a sense of direction, and our team there does a good job of that every afternoon. We're always willing to give advice and say, well, here's what I think. Sometimes they listen to us and sometimes they go in a different direction. But, regardless, at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, that camera light's coming on, you got to be ready. So you got to try to look at every script before we go on air, but sometimes that's easier on some days than other days, depending on what's going on.
Wow. So you don't have a lot of time to prepare?
No, I mean, we stay busy. We try to look at the scripts, make sure that everything is factual. Spelling errors get through occasionally because, some of that stuff slips through the cracks. But when we do make a mistake like that, the viewer lets us know. And we appreciate that because it keeps us on our toes and reminds us we can do better and we need to do better.
You've been in this business for 44 years, right?
Yeah.
What keeps you waking up every morning, focused, ready to do the job every day?
Cynthia, I think it boils down to just loving doing what I do. It's somebody made the remark not long ago. Somebody said, well, Jerry, why are you still doing this? You've been here 40-something years, and don't you want to retire and enjoy life? And said, yeah, someday. And they said, somebody made the remark, joking, said, well, the only reason Jerry's still here is because he wants to beat Steve Johnson's record of being the longest-running employee at Channel 19, and because Steve's been there a year and a half longer than me. And I just kind of laughed, and I said, no, you know what? Last time I checked, being the longest running employee at Channel 19 does not come with a gold watch. And if I want a gold watch, I'll just go buy one, And I said, but no, I said, I hope people realize the reason I'm still there doing it is because I love telling stories. And I love telling people's stories, especially when they're personal. I just enjoy doing the news. Now, there will come a day where I finally say, it's time. It's time. And next March I will be 70 years old, and I will have been at Channel 19 for 45 years at that point, So, there's a time and a place and a season, and I've got 3 grandkids now, with my daughter down in Birmingham that, I get to see them often, but, not often enough, because I look at them and see how quickly they're growing, and I realize how quickly my daughters grew, and they're both in their 30s now. And I'm thinking, God, where did the time go? You blink and you look back and go, oh yeah, I remember that. That seems like yesterday. Well, it wasn't just yesterday. It was a few years ago.
Right.
So,
Well, we enjoy watching you, and you've been doing an amazing job over the years, and keep up the good work.
well, thank you.
You had mentioned that you love telling stories, and I was wondering if there's a local story that is most memorable to you that.
You know, it would be hard to pinpoint one story. Obviously, when we started doing the story, as we call it, on Sunday nights several years ago, we were looking for stories that touched the heart or might put a smile on your face. And certainly I've been blessed that people have trusted me enough to tell their stories and put their feelings out there and their emotions. And you know, I've had people that have just choked up and teared up on camera, and they'll go, "Jerry, I'm so sorry." And I said, "No, don't worry about that. That's what makes the story real, because what you're doing is telling your story, and people are going to look at that and go, 'Oh my gosh, that's such a strong person.'" You know, so I said, don't ever worry about hiding your emotions. And of course I said, look, I'm not going to take advantage of that. I'm going to tell your story with compassion and concern. And I said, you know, and I hope we've been able to do that. One funny story that I will share with you that happened. We happened to be at the White House years ago covering when President Bill Clinton was in office. And he had a jobs bill or something before Congress, and they had summoned the Alabama media to the White House and to Washington to explain what was going on so that we would get the word back to our states. And long story short, we were in a news conference in the Roosevelt Room there at the White House with Vice President Al Gore, and all of a sudden the door opens and President Clinton sticks his head in and said, "Hey, what are y'all doing?" So just having a news conference, and said, "Come on in." So he came in, and of course, you know, I raised my hand and asked him a question about funding for the Marshall Space Flight Center, because I knew that is something that people would want to know here in Huntsville, and I thought, you know, got to bring the story home to them. And so after the news conference was over, it got a little casual, and we were standing there. Several members of the Alabama media delegation were there and talking to him, and he looks at me and he goes, "Oh, Huntsville, huh?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Yeah." I said, I'm trying to do my best, Bill Clinton. "Yeah, Chelsea's getting ready to come to space camp down there." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I think in a couple of weeks." And I said, "Well, we'll look forward to hosting her in Huntsville, and hope she has a great time while she's there." And so Secret Service guy leans in, he goes, "Please don't report that." And I said, "I won't." So I kept my word. I get back to Huntsville, and I called the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. So I asked for the PR person out there, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was Al Whitaker at the time. And I said, "Al, got a question for you." He said, "What's that?" And I said, "When's Chelsea Clinton coming to Huntsville to space camp?" And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "Come on, Al. Yeah, I know Chelsea's coming to space camp." And he goes, "How the hell did you find out about that?" "You're not going to report that?" I said, No, the Secret Service asked me not to, because it would have been a security nightmare, and I certainly didn't want that. And so he said, "Well, she's coming." And I said, "Will you at least call us so we can come and get video when she graduates?" And he said, "Yeah, I promise I'll do that." So they did, and we went out and got video, and didn't say anything about it while she was here, because, as I say, it could have been a security nightmare for the Secret Service, because she had protection while she was here, and certainly didn't want to put her in any kind of danger. But that was one of the funnier stories, and you know, hopefully someday when I do leave the business, I hope to write a book and share some of those and put those in there, because those are the kind of stories that you never really have time to tell on air, but you feel like, oh, I need to tell those. You know, I think the viewers would enjoy kind of pulling back the curtain and giving a behind the scenes look at what life has been like for me.
I think that's a great story. Believe it or not, I was working at the Space and Rocket Center during that time.
Were
I
you
remember,
really?
Yes, yes.
Small world.
Yeah, I remember. I think I recall the Secret Service coming in probably 2 weeks early. They had to do like a security check at the Marriott, so it was
Yeah.
like a really big deal. So,
Yeah.
I think that story is just that you knew before I knew probably that she was coming.
I don't know about that. I mean, I'm sure the Secret Service was here, which is so funny because had I not decided to go into journalism, I was going to apply to the Secret Service. That was my next career choice.
Wow.
But I guess things worked out.
Wow, interesting. So tell me, has there been a story that you delivered that kind of like shaped you or impacted your life?
I think probably some of the toughest stories I've had to cover are tornadoes and the death of police officers locally. Those are always tough to do. I remember going through the tornado of '89 that hit Airport Road. I was on air then and knew that something bad had happened, and it was funny because right before it hit, I'm walking down the hall and we had skylights there in the downtown studio and station, and the sky was green. And I remarked to one of my coworkers, I said, "That does not look good." And I walked back into the newsroom and heard on the police scanner, "We got the K-9 officer down at the range." And I said, "Guys, something bad is going on." And the air tornado had just come over Redstone Arsenal, touched down there at the garbage to steam plant, hit the K-9 range, and then went down Airport Road. Just the loss of life that we suffered. I think it was 22 people that we lost that afternoon. And then a few days later going down there and reporting from the scene. Same thing on 2011, April 27th. That I described that one time to somebody as it was a day from hell because there were so many tornadoes and storms breaking out from early that morning on to late that afternoon. But what difficulty I had that day was my youngest daughter was in Tuscaloosa going to the University of Alabama. And I see video of a tornado, this monster storm rolling into Tuscaloosa from one of the cameras that one of the Birmingham stations had. And I tried to text her, got no response. "Are you okay?" And the only time I left the set during that time was to go see if I could reach her. Probably an hour later, she texted me back and said, "Dad, I'm safe." And that's all I needed to know because we've got all this destruction going on in North Alabama, and I got a child down there, and I know that people are getting hurt, and it scared me to death. And so, I think those are probably some of the tougher things to deal with. And then, of course, when we lose law enforcement officers needlessly in this community, it always in other communities it hits home.
So that was April 27th. What year was that?
2011.
2011. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was a horrible time. I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Just switching gears a little bit, what would be a cool there to cover about Huntsville that you haven't had the opportunity to do so yet?
I don't know. That's a good question. And just right off the top of my head, I can't think of what there are some stories that I would have loved to have done when I was younger. At almost 70, I'm not sure I want to put my body through that, but I would have loved to have flown with the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds when they were here for air shows in North Alabama, and even wouldn't have minded parachuting with the Golden Knights parachute team. That would have been fun. But I think at almost 70 now, I'm too old to be doing that stuff. I don't want to put that kind of G-force on my body and black out, in the back of a plane. But I think, something like that. I've always had a sense of adventure and loved doing things like that. But I think that would have been fun to have done that. Never got to do it, but I'm going to say, bucket list, maybe not so.
Okay, we'll watch out for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that you're involved in some local community service projects. I've heard about Men Wear Pink campaign to raise money for the American Cancer Society. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I got involved with that last year, and because everybody has somebody in their life or a family member or a friend who has dealt with breast cancer. And, I don't think a lot of people realize breast cancer not only affects women, but men as well. And so, when they approached me last year and said, we'd love for you to be part of our campaign, I thought, okay, well, we can do that and raise some money to help raise awareness. The American Cancer Society does a great job with providing support and helping women who are battling breast cancer, whether it's giving them a ride to their chemo treatments to make sure that somebody can do that, or helping them with some of their medical bills if they are at a point where they're just not able to take care of everything. So and of course research. It just really is a great cause, and one that's near and dear to my heart because of family members and friends who have gone through that. But we're doing it again this year. I think last year we raised about $7,500 with my campaign, and we took an old picture from 1979 when I had a plaid coat, still had the mustache and dark hair, put that on a T-shirt and said, Men Wear Pink, and I think we sold more than 300 T-shirts at $25 a piece to raise money for the campaign. We are doing another T-shirt this year for the campaign, but we're not quite ready to reveal it. Hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll be able to do that. So I'm involved in that, and I've always been real involved with Chris and Amy George's, the Melissa George Neal Natal Memorial Fund. Of course, Amy and I were co-anchoring together when the twins were born, and she lost Melissa, and Aunt Catherine is now a freshman at the University of Alabama, her twin sister. So I've been on that journey with them, and have always been there to help them with that. And also St. Jude. I love St. Jude Children's Hospital and what they do, and have been involved with some of the kids here over the years that have been to St. Jude, and have worked with the Huntsville Havoc on trying to raise awareness and do stories when they have their St. Jude night every year. So, those are probably three of my favorite events to get involved with. But hopefully, when I do retire, I can get involved with a few more. That I love what Habitat for Humanity does in building homes. So maybe I can use some of those construction skills that I picked up 45 years ago.
Yeah, that would be great.
And give back. Because I love giving back to the community.
Oh, yeah.
I emceed an event recently at UAH, their Sports Hall of Fame induction banquet. And so Mark McCarter, when he got in touch with me, he said, let us know what you charge. I said, Mark, I don't charge anything to do this stuff. I said, this is my way of giving back to the community and saying thank you for welcoming me and being, allowing me to be part of the community for as long as I've had my career here. So I said, I don't charge for that, and it's just that's not my DNA. To me, it's giving back to the community, and which I think, we all need to do anyway.
Well, we certainly appreciate you for that. So you're busy giving back to the community. You're reporting stories, good and bad. When you have free time, what are you doing in Huntsville? What's some of your favorite restaurants? What's some of your favorite festivals that you attend?
Well, I'm a Tennessee Titans fan, season ticket holder, so I do go to the Titans games when they're in town. I don't go as often now as I used to because I have a lot of people going, hey, Jerry, will you sell me your tickets? Yeah, I'm not, I got plans for it, like I had to sell them a couple of weekends ago because I had to go down to babysit the grandkids for the weekend. So I love doing that. huge hockey fan. I grew up playing ice hockey in Nashville for a couple of years when I was a kid. That 12-year-old Jerry you were talking about earlier, and love ice hockey. So every chance I get, I try to go to hockey games and keep up with that. So I love doing that. To say my favorite restaurants, there are a couple out there that I don't go to as often as I would like because it's I don't have a lot of free time, and especially at night by the time I get off work, I don't want to be eating at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. But there are a couple downtown around the square and in that vicinity that I really enjoy, but I may get to maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. That it's just casual dining, but it's I also enjoy fast food every once in a while. I had to work night shift last night and needed something quick, so I went to Chick-fil-A on Governor's Drive and just grabbed something for dinner. So I mean, it's to me that even a chicken sandwich for dinner is good. So but I like sporting events and being able to go and just sit and kind of relax and take your mind off things. Love concerts. Because of my schedule and everything, I haven't been able to go to many this year or the last couple of years, but I've got some friends from Fort Payne. They're going to be playing December 1st at the VBC, and I plan to be there when Alabama raises the roof on the VBC again. It'll be their first time they've been back in Huntsville to play since, I believe, 1981 or 82.
Wow, I didn't know
So,
that.
yeah. Because they were hosting their June Jam there in Fort Payne for a long time, and so they decided not to play Huntsville, and they're coming back, and of course it'll be a little different because they lost Jeff last fall to Parkinson's, and so it's going to be different with him not being on stage, but I've been friends with those guys for a long time and love them like brothers, but they're just good people.
What's one of your favorite concerts that you attended in Huntsville?
Well, I better say Alabama,
okay.
in case Randy or Teddy see this, or Jeff's wife. There've been so many over the years. And my music taste varies. I mean, the Beach Boys put on a great show when they were here. Also, Kenny Chesney, and he had Sarah Evans open for him that night. That was a great concert. Alabama. But I'm also excited about the fact that Keb Mo is coming to Huntsville in a couple of weeks, and discovered his music and love that kind of bluesy sound and laid-back sound. So, it's a lot of different varieties of music, but those are probably my top choices.
Okay. Now, Kenny Chesney, did you see him at, was it the Orion Amphitheater? Or?
No, I didn't. I know that he was here, but I was working that night, so I didn't get to go. When I saw him, he was at the VBC, and actually got to go backstage and do an interview with him. And just super nice guy, an East Tennessee boy that grew up and, is just singing songs about home, And you look at not just Kenny, but you look at the rich music history that we have here in North Alabama with all the stars that are recorded over in the shows, from Aretha Franklin to, Leonard Skinner. It's Percy Sledge. There's so much music history here that it's rich and diverse, and so I kind of like it all.
I heard that Huntsville's trying to take that Music City title from Nashville.
I don't know that that'll ever happen fully, because I think Nashville will always be the music city, because you can't take away that from country music. But I certainly think that what Huntsville is doing is exciting, and I think our city is going to be a music destination for sure. I mean, if you look at the number of concerts that we have coming in now between the VBC, the Mars Music Hall, the Orion. I mean, we've got concerts now that we're drawing that I would have never thought we would have gotten people to come play here.
Willie Nelson's coming, I believe, October. Are you going to that concert?
I would love to go see Willie Nelson. That would be one of my bucket list concerts. So it's just I think a lot of stars and a lot of people aren't playing not everybody can be a Taylor Swift and sell out an entire football stadium like she has done and is currently doing. And I mean, my youngest daughter's already bought tickets for Taylor's concert in October of next year in Miami. So I mean, it's going to be there where the Dolphins play. So not every group, and Kenny Chesney has done concert tours in football stadiums across the country, sold them out. Not every artist enjoys that, but so they play the smaller venues. But to me, I like those smaller venues because they're much more intimate. You feel like you're closer to the artist and their music. Wow.
So what would you want the Huntsville community to know about you that they don't already know?
Oh, I'm not sure I want to say that. No, I don't know. That's I hope that people get a sense that I love this community. This is home, and that I cherish the time that I've been able to do what I've done here for so long. But I hope people realize that when I do finish this journey, I just want them to go, he seemed like a nice guy, and he was fair. He was fair. As a journalist, that's all you can hope for. I don't want to be seen as being on one side of the fence or the other. I want people to say he straddled the fence, but he was always fair. And so I hope that's what when people meet me, I tell people my job's no different than your job. It's just at 4, 5, and 6 o'clock nowadays, you turn on the TV and you see what I've been working on during that day, along with other members of our team. So it's the only difference. It's when people say, "Oh, we got a celebrity in here." No, I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a newsman. I'm just doing my best to tell you what's happened in our community and what's happening in our country, in our world. And I'm just disseminator of information, and I just want to be able to tell people this is what's going on. But I hope people say he was fair. And he loved doing what he did.
Hello Huntsville is hosted by Cynthia Joyner. Cynthia Joyner and Jeff Morlock are the executive producers. This podcast is produced and directed by Keith Matthews and David Person. Jake Martin and Hans Guger provided remote and in-studio audio engineering and other technical support. Chad Bell is the production administrator. The podcast theme was written and produced by Kyle Wimbish and David Person. Spread the word about Hello Huntsville, the first podcast that makes Huntsville, Alabama, the star.